Welcome to the channel, guys. We are going to be showing off my Knights Armament SR15. This is my Knights Armament SR15. This is a factory SBR. Just real quick. This thing is unloaded and clear. There is no magazine, nothing in the bolt well, and I can see into the actual chamber, nothing in there. This gun is safe. I don't play with loaded guns on my channel. Basically, you don't play with loaded guns. Use your fucking brain. So this is my Knights Armament SR15 11.5 inch. This is a factory SBR. You can see right there, SR15 SBR 556, Knights manufacturer, Titusville, USA. So in this particular configuration, this is my kind of 150 meters and an indoor rifle. So if I ever needed to engage it at pretty close distances or with indoors, you know, say in a home defense situation, this is the rifle that I have set up for that. Additionally, civil unrest, if there is, you know, tear gas or biological agents or nuclear agents in the air and you have to wear a gas mask, this rifle is also set up to do that with ease without impeding anything about the user or the rifle. It's just you're already set up and familiar with how the rifle works, no matter if you're wearing, you know, full SOP gear, full CBR and gas mask, night vision with gas mask. It's all set up. You don't have to change anything about yourself or the rifle. It's ready to go. So let's start tip to butt. This particular rifle is running a Knights Armament MAMS. MAMS, M-A-M-S. MAMS stands for Multi-Axis Muzzle Stability. Super rolling off the tongue marketing term there. So MAMS is easier to say, but this is basically a muzzle brake. This is a compensator because these are actually directional. You'll notice the porting stops as we rotate it to the top. So there's no porting except at the very, very end. There's 3 tiny little ports, but the rest of the top of this compensator is unported until we get around to the sides. And then it's ported in a directional to offset recoil. And then you get to the bottom, you'll notice no ports again. But you also notice around the perimeter are these detents, round detents. We have a locating pin that is for the suppressor. That particular pin makes sure that you are aligned and locked, and then these particular detents get these ball bearings that get pressed out of a collar, and it locks it onto the muzzle device, as so. This is the notch that we're looking for right here to match up on the pin. Just snaps on top, and then we ratchet this bad boy down. As we ratchet this, there's tiny ball bearings in here that are forced out into those detents, and that locks it up firmly. There is no rotation, no spinning. This thing is locked up solid, and I can get it right back off, hot, cold, 500 rounds, 1,000 rounds from now. It doesn't really suffer from lockup. I can get this bad boy off and it doesn't carbon lock. I absolutely love the feature of this particular suppressor. You just keep your ball bearings lubed and your collar internals lubed, and man, this thing just comes right off. This is the Knights Armament 556 quick disconnect suppressor. This is the non-3D printed, so this is before they 3D printed the suppressors. These are pretty much vaporware. They didn't make them for very long, and I'm kind of bummed I didn't get the stubbier size, the close quarters. It's about half the length of this. I'm really bummed I didn't get one of those for my 16-inch gun, because the overall length would have been fantastic with a short suppressor instead of this long one. But this is the early CQD style of suppressor. So it's made out of stainless steel and Inconel, and is incredibly well built. It actually is full auto rated. The lockup collar is really nicely done. Let's see if you can see the ball bearings in there. Yeah, you can. And as I tighten this up, they get forced out, which lock into these detents. It's a genius design. It works really well, and like I said, I've never had this thing carbon lock on me with this muzzle device. And this muzzle device acts kind of like as the superficial first baffle for the suppressor, even though the suppressor has like a great baffling system. I wish I could get more light in there, but going back from there, my barrier stop is also from Knights Armament. You're going to get a theme here. It's going to be Knights Armament. Because it's a Knights Armament rifle, I try to keep it as one brand as humanly possible where possible. But this particular barrier stop is on the non-ejection port side. It is an M-Lok system, and it's great for just jamming into door frames or against trees or anything that you want. It is a good vertical stop. That is a great way to brace yourself and give you one additional point of contact and really give you some stability. Like mounting in Call of Duty. But like for real, it doesn't take up a lot of space, it isn't very heavy, and it doesn't really get in the way of any of my equipment when I'm doing drills like a rifle to pistol transition drill. Never hangs up on anything, and I do like having it because it does offer some stability. Iron sight wise, my front iron sight is from Scalarworks. This is the PEAK iron sight. Absolutely fantastic form factor. Really is designed after the front sight block, built-in front sight post gas block from the M4 rifle. Has that same form factor of that particular style of look. So I love a good M4, and I love a good front sight post fixed front sight block, and that kind of gives me that look that I absolutely love and crave. So Scalarworks PEAK fixed front iron sight. I do keep a section of Picatinny rail on the bottom of my rifle. The reason I keep a small piece of Picatinny rail on the bottom of my rifle is to add a quick disconnect bipod. This particular one is a Harris bipod with a LaRue quick disconnect mount. It works fantastic for its purpose of helping me zero or at long range if I don't have anything to rest my rifle against. The bipod is quick deploy, quick detach, quick attach, and is very helpful for distance. And believe it or not, an 11.5 is very, very capable at distance, especially when you add in your suppressor, which adds some velocity back to you. So sometimes I rock a bipod. Rarely do I rock a bipod with a red dot unless I'm zeroing it. But outside of that, I usually use this for a little bit higher of a magnification optic. Going up from there, we have a Surefire Arisaka hybrid mount. It is a Surefire head and tail cap with an Arisaka body and M-Lok mounting bracket. It allows the flashlight to get a little bit closer to the rail and a little bit more finessed as far as position options, which is fantastic when you have an octagon rail like this Knights Armament URX4, which is essentially an octagon. So I have 7 sides of M-Lok with one Picatinny top rail. So my mounting options are unlimited in theory. I can put this thing however and wherever I want. So that's why the hybrid of the Arisaka body and mount with the Surefire Scout 600 tail cap and head. I use a Modlite button for the activation of the light. I put it actually behind where my normal grip is, so I have to be very deliberate off position to activate the white light. That way I don't need one of those fatty kind of 3D printed covers that you flip up with the bungee cord that everybody's rocking these days so that they don't negligently discharge their white light. But you can just be pretty disciplined in the way that you handle your rifle, the way you pick your rifle up, and the way that you employ it. and get pretty much the same thing without having to have more gizmos to flap and toggle and more weight on your rifle. My rifle's heavy. I don't need more crap on it, 3D printed or not, so I put my activation pretty far back from my normal grip when I'm firing it. Going up from there, we have the BE Meyers Maul C, which is just absolutely fantastic when you're running night vision. I have wanted a BE Meyers Maul for a very, very long time. I have finally gotten one, and it has completely exceeded expectations. Its capabilities as the civilian model exceeds anything that I need it for. I am not calling in close air support. I am not marking targets with a laser for, whatever for CAS. I don't need something that bright. I have looked at a PEC, a full power PEC, also absurdly bright. I really don't need that for the type of shooting and training that I've been doing. This Maul C works for absolutely everything that I've requested it to do, and it's pretty awesome. Really like the visible green laser. It is daylight bright. I can point things out to other people for communication. I can also use it to passively aim during the day, especially when wearing a gas mask in a CBRN environment. So it's really good for passively aiming when you're wearing a gas mask, whether that be because of tear gas, whether that be because of radiation with a nuclear agent or a biological agent that is contagious. It's just an easy way to aim without having to change anything about your setup on your rifle. So really like the visible laser. As far as the IR, it is pretty intuitive in the way that it is set up. There are two modes, mode 1 and then a mode of like close range, medium range, and far distance range, and it's pretty intuitive. It's just close to you, as far out as you want to see is as far out as the switch goes. And then two different modes. It's usually a low option and a high option for each of the modes, which for me works great. We also have an off button, a visible laser button, and then you rotate it all the way over, and then it's infrared, so it's only able to be seen under night vision. Pretty awesome setup, worth the wait in my opinion to have on the rifle. From there, I've switched out my vertical front grip and kind of repositioned where it is in relation to the rail. This is a chopped down Knights Armament broom handle. In fact, it's been completely reworked to have the contour of the URX4 rail and has been converted over to M-Lok. There's a gentleman by the name of White Rhino. You can find him on Instagram. He uses a Y for the rhino part of it instead of an I. But he can be found on Instagram. He sells them, or you can send them one of your Knights Armament broom handles, and he will modify it to multiple different things, from just regular stubbies, which I have on my MP5 back here. It's just a regular 1913 stubby broom handle. An M-Lok version, they have all sorts of, or he has all sorts of different ways of modifying those broom handles into stubbies. Really like keeping it Knights Armament, really like that it's a kind of custom, unoffered, off-the-shelf modification, but is still very much factory Knights Armament. And I just really like the way it feels, looks, and handles in my hand after the modification. So really like the broom handle stubby grip from White Rhino. I switched to a stubbier mounting. I used to have a Haley Strategic, but I went to the Knights Armament anti-rotational M-Lok sling mount for a H&K style D-ring. This D-ring is anti-rotational. It will not fully spin. I am still running a RedBack One sling system. If you aren't familiar with Jason Falla, he is this rad Australian dude that was in Special Forces, and this is his sling system. Basically, the premise of it is this sliding band right here that you put around your neck. You actually wear it like a necklace. You don't put one arm through the whole sling. You're literally just wearing it like a necklace. And then this slider band doesn't get hung up on anything or chafe your neck as you're doing drills. It's also set up so that you can do a rifle to pistol transition drill and it won't flop around. You can actually seriously run with this thing and get it employed right back the way you're supposed to. So it's a really great sling, but it's basically for use in fighting or for storage. And that's its only two options. And I find it to be the best sling out there. I put it on literally every rifle I have, including my MP5, and I swear by them. RedBack One slings from Jason Falla. Going further into RedBack One and Jason Falla, this is the Skyscraper mount by Knights Armament, designed in collaboration with Jason Falla of RedBack One. And this is a T2 Aimpoint footprint on a high-rise optic mount. The mount itself is skeletonized, so you can actually look through it. And it has Picatinny rail on the back, so you can add a magnifier to the gun. I usually run an occluded dot on my Aimpoint T2. This is a Knights Armament cap that allows you to keep 2 batteries. That way, if for some reason your T2 battery finally died, you can quick swap it right there in the cap and not need to worry about where you store it on your person. It's stored on the optic. The last time I had to change a battery, it lasted almost 5 years at setting 8, constantly on for 5 years before it died. So now I just set an alarm for 4 years, and I just change the battery out every 4 years and put a new one in the cap, and awesome little design there. So Jason Falla of RedBack One and Knights Armament collaborated on this optic, which basically puts it almost 3 inches height above bore of the center line of the rifle. So it's very, very high, but it's designed for heads-up shooting so that you're not kind of collapsing your view and scrunching your head down to really collapse down onto the rifle, especially when wearing either a gas mask or night vision or both. This is great to look through at that kind of height because your nods, when they're down, will be lined up with a correct shouldered rifle. Your nods will actually be in line with this, and you can passively aim through your optic. I like to occlude my dot, so I keep the cap on the front closed most of the time so that I can't actually see through my optic, which keeps me very target focused and projects the dot onto whatever I'm focused on at distance. So I love running an occluded dot, and this factory cap allows me to do so. And anytime I need to actually see through it, it's just a quick little flip, and then it's out of the way of my field of view, and I can look through it for passive aiming under night vision, or if I have my magnifier, I can get to it and see through and get a better, cleaner shot at or identify something a little bit further out. The other nice part about, besides running night vision or gas masks, is the height of the optic also allows me to run fixed irons and still use them at all times through the mount because it is skeletonized. I can actually look through this rear iron sight right through the bottom of this mount and pick up my front iron sight. This is also a, we'll get to it, but the mount allows me to keep iron sights deployed and ready to use at all times. This setup with the fixed irons and the RedBack One is essentially just a recreation of what the guys were doing in the early 90s. This is literally just a modernized Gordy rifle. Imagine that this is the carry handle. That's about the height that we had the Aimpoint, pros on the carry handle. It was all pretty much that height, which was great for night vision. And the carry handle allowed you to look through the bottom of it and pick up your front iron sight. So if your optic wasn't working, you still had backup irons. So you had great night vision height, you had fixed irons, you had a heads-up capability. So we're kind of going right full circle back to it, but in a modern day way. So I can add a magnifier or, any number of things. So really, really enjoy this optic setup. My rear sight is a PEAK from Scalarworks, a fixed rear sight, similar to the front, but kind of a reverse image of that fixed front sight block. They pair very, very nicely. They have two different apertures. They are flat machines, so they don't pick up light. So they're really easy to see through and use, and I really enjoy the aesthetic of them. They're absolutely beautifully made and well machined and well designed and functional sights. So I really like those iron sights from Scalarworks. The PEAKs are, for me, PEAK aesthetic. Absolutely love them, especially with that optic setup. They're always ready to go, and they look kick-ass. So it's really nice to have a really good set of backup irons that are aesthetically pleasing and super duper functional no matter what you're rocking. So, charging handle. This is a Radian charging handle. This is actually a Radian SD. The SD model, you can kind of start to see it the rifle, but right here it has these cutouts that help gas escape out of it but channel it forward out the upper receivers instead of getting gas back in your face. So the Radian SD charging handle helps mitigate gas when used with a suppressed rifle. Now, the Knights Armament SR15 has its own proprietary gas system. It is very, very well gassed. It is a very nice and soft shooting rifle. The recoil impulse of a Knights Armament rifle is fantastic. They did a great job. It has basically a custom gas block and a custom gas tube. It has no toggle, that little, the way that a gas tube on a regular AR-15 kind of goes up so that it can get into the upper receiver. The gas block on an SR15 is high up, and it has like this fitting that I would say is kind of like a race car brake line. So it's completely sealed. The gas system is sealed, and the pinhole in the barrel for the gas block is teeny, teeny, tiny because it doesn't need a ton of gas to come back and actuate this bolt carrier group because it is so well sealed. So even with the back pressure of the suppressor, it has enough gas to cycle the action and not pour a ton of gas back in your face. But this is just my last little extra step to make sure that even under really heavy sustained fire, I'm not getting gas back in my face really at all. So the Radian SD charging handle is pretty clutch there. Let's talk about the bolt carrier group. Super spotless clean. This is the Knights Armament E3 bolt group. This is in a sandcutter bolt carrier. The sandcutter has these little cutouts at the top channels and the bottom channels where it rides in the upper receiver to help mitigate, debris and sand, and it just helps channel and funnel it out of the action so that it won't screw it up and make your rifle stop running. So the sandcutter bolt carrier is pretty awesome, especially here in Arizona where there's a lot of fine powdered dust and sand. I've never had a stoppage on this rifle. This thing is an absolute nasty tank. I also don't clean it. I inspect it very, very regularly, and I lube it and keep it, well maintained. I just don't keep it spotless. It's not a safe clean. I beat the crap out of this thing. I want to know what it's capable of. So I am almost at the 13,000 round mark now without a single hiccup or failure. I have had 2 failures to eject, and they were ammo related. It was a stuck case, and then the extractor, which is a great extractor, actually ripped the entire back casing off, so we had to pound it out with a cleaning tool. Not the gun's fault, definitely the ammo's fault, so I still consider the gun stoppage free at this point, at 13K. Fantastic rifle. Beat the crap out of these things. They will absolutely go to hell and back. So the bolt itself is the E3 bolt. Why is it called the E3 bolt? Well, it's enhanced with 3 changes from a factory AR-15 bolt. First one is the cam pin diameter size. It has been reduced so that the hole in the actual bolt has more webbing on the side of it where the cam pin inserts to prevent it from snapping in half and cracking and breaking. AR-15s and M4 bolts break there all the time because of how big the diameter of the cam pin is. There's just very little material on either side of that hole, and it's a great stress fracture point. They snap all the time. So they redid that. That is one of the enhancements. The second enhancement is to the extractor. It looks like a lobster tail, and it has 2 springs underneath it instead of the single spring, and then they also redid the pivot point. When you see it, again, it looks like a little lobster tail, but it really helps sling brass out of the chamber. It is a foolproof, well, not foolproof, but very reliable extraction system that keeps the rifle running in extremely nasty conditions. It can get very, very gummed up, and it will still have a lot of spring force and tension with its revised spring point and double spring to continue to cycle and keep brass ejecting out of the chamber so that it will keep feeding. The last enhancement is to the bolt face, or the bolt itself, where it meets the chamber or the locking block. The lugs on a AR-15 are squared off, and that creates a stress and fracture point. You can actually shear lugs off of an M4 and AR-15 bolt opposite the extractor, or the one right above the extractor, but you can shear those lugs off all the time because of the stress fracture of the squared off bolt. So Eugene Stoner, yes, that Eugene Stoner, worked with Knights Armament to enhance his original AR-15 for Armalite into a rifle that would be as reliable as humanly possible. It was actually one of the last projects he worked on before his passing, and he basically just wanted to update his original Armalite design, which created the SR15. That's what the SR in SR15 stands for. Stoner Rifle. Eugene Stoner, the creator of the Armalite AR-15. So the last enhancement for his design was to round off the bolt lugs on the bolt to reduce and eliminate that fracture point. So instead of having squared off, they are rounded off, and they eliminate shearing and stress fractures and produce a much more reliable bolt that is less susceptible to breakage. Quite a bit of work was done. That also means that all of those parts are proprietary, and I can only get them from Knights Armament. I can no longer run a regular AR-15 bolt in this. Like I said, at 13,000 rounds without a cleaning, you might be able to see how, can you see all the carbon and nasty sludge built up in the upper? I mean, legit, this thing just keeps going. It doesn't matter what I do to it. It doesn't matter how nasty it gets. It doesn't matter how less or like the lubrication level has gotten dangerously crappy, and it still keeps running. So it's awesome in that fact. So the bolt I'm not worried about. I will eventually replace it and the barrel just because of high round count, but I'll replace it likely unbroken and likely without a single failure. Awesome, awesome, awesome setup. Gotta love Knights Armament. Gotta love Eugene Stoner for getting back into the game and being like, we can actually we can improve him. We have the technology. And this is the baby. So don't be scared of proprietary parts. The reason they're proprietary is because they figured it out, and damn does it run like an absolute beast. So feel confident in your new proprietary bolt. Last part we're going to talk about in the upper is the barrel. This is a factory Knights Armament barrel. It is cold hammer forged and chrome lined. It is a 1-in-7 twist, and it is an 11.5 inch length. Like I said earlier, it has its own gas system, proprietary gas block, gas tube, bolt. All of that is Knight Armament, designed with Eugene Stoner. They call it carbine length, but it's Knights Armament's carbine length, so it doesn't match any other carbine length AR-15s. You can basically just disregard whatever Knights Armament says is their stuff. It's just Knights Armament's way of naming it, and it doesn't really follow everything else, and that's fucking annoying in that respect. Their marketing gimmick naming stuff, annoying. Sound signature reduction. Anyway, you get the point. This barrel's awesome. This barrel is more accurate than I am. So let's get into the lower. The lower is a little proprietary in the fact that it is nearly ambidextrous. And I say nearly because this little bad boy here is a bolt release, but not a bolt hold open, which is the kind of bummer about this particular Mod 2 SR15. It's got ambi safety, it's ambi mag releases, and it's got ambi bolt releases, but not ambi bolt hold opens. The current Knights Armament, or the KS1, that is the Secret Service rifle that Knights Armament makes for them, has a, similar to like the A5 HK416, a little lever that allows you to just flip it up to lock the bolt up and flip it down to release it, which is a way cooler system because then you can lock your bolt open by just pulling your bolt to the rear and keeping your trigger finger up on the frame and locking it. I actually still have that, but with a modified version of a mag release from something called Redi-Mag, and this is a Redi-Catch. And what it does is the same thing that a Radian 8-ACK lower does. If I depress this magazine button and I pull back the charging handle, the bolt is locked to the rear. So I do have the ability to lock the bolt back with just my fire control group hand, which for me is my right hand. So I have the ability to put it on fire or safe. I have the ability to release a magazine. I have the ability to release the bolt itself. And if I hold the magazine release down and pull back the charging handle, I have the ability to lock that same bolt to the rear. Pretty cool little device. Continuing on, I run the factory Knights Armament 2-stage trigger. It is a absolutely fantastic trigger. Has a nice take-up. And then you hit a great wall. This is very, very firm. That is where you would be now applying pressure to get a break. Keep pulling, and bam, nice clean break. It's a lot like glass, and the let-off is pretty short. And it's very firm. You get right back onto that wall. So the 2-stage trigger, for my ability and my shooting habits, this two-stage trigger absolutely satisfies everything that I need it to do. It matches the ability that I have as a shooter. I don't need a Geisley SSE. I'm not there yet. So I still use this particular factory trigger, and I really like it. Still running factory 90-degree Knights Armament safeties. I still really like Knights Armament safeties. The click is positive. It feels really good. It's smooth and fluid, so that it's easy to get on and off. And on the other side, it's scalloped, so that if you have your trigger finger manipulating your controls, it's not in the way. So that nice little scallop there keeps your hand and your trigger finger exactly what it needs to do. So I really like the other side safety, and it is ambidextrous. The 90-degree throw, that doesn't bother me. That's what most AR-15s have, so I don't need a 45-degree throw. It's such a fast motion that I'm not riding the safety to 90 degrees. It's a flip of a switch. So I don't really need that little bit of less travel. My thumb isn't really on it very long. Grip-wise, I am running a Magpul MOE-SL. It is a steeper grip than a like A1 or A2 M4 grip, and it is also hollow. I don't put anything in my pistol grips of my lowers. It's just hollow for weight, and the steeper angle gives me a better wrist angle, more comfortable shooting, easier for recoil control, so I appreciate the steeper angle. I don't really love the like super vertical 90 degree. I think the aesthetic of that looks really weird. I understand they're very comfortable to shoot, similar to shooting like a handgun, but this is plenty of angle for me and my needs. I am running a LMT SOPMOD enhanced stock. B5s are pretty much identical to this, but LMT was the originator and it came with the rifle, so I continue to run the LMT. If you were to ask me, should you get an LMT over a B5? No, I cannot tell you the difference. I have a B5 on a Mark 18 of mine, and it feels identical to the LMT at a cheaper price point. It's just, yeah, SOPMODs are awesome. I really like them because in these tubes I have a bunch of CR123 batteries, and that adds some weight to the back of the rifle. And these are Magpul Gen 2 with a Magpod base. The Magpod at the time that I discovered them was only available for the Gen 2 version of the PMags from Magpul. To my understanding, the Magpod base is now available for Gen 3 mags, so I can actually upgrade every magazine I have, but I really like the Magpod. I did a video on them, but it's basically like this rubberized texture, and it is basically a bipod. This lays flat on the ground and is a super stable platform and kind of replaces having a bipod on your rifle for those times that you do need to shoot in the prone, but it does do it very, very well. So I do love running that type of magazine on this rifle. It works it basically serves two purposes. One, feeding my magazine fuel and keeping it gassed up with ammunition, and the second is a stable shooting platform. So if I get down on the prone, this thing will keep the rifle nice and flat. It doesn't induce any malfunctions and absolutely allows me to get a nice stable shooting platform with a rifle that already exists with a magazine in it. So really like the Magpod. So that's it. This is my Knights Armament SR15 11.5 factory SBR, pretty much as configured. Yeah, it absolutely clears the rear sight with the flip to side EOTech magnifier, and running the suppressor makes it still pretty compact. Total weight with a fully loaded magazine is 13 pounds. That includes running the bipod. Taking this off actually takes off almost a full pound, so it's about, well, not a full pound, but it's 12.2 ounces without the bipod, which is still a pretty heavy rifle, and it's mostly front heavy. I can make it a little bit lighter by popping off the magnifier. I rarely run the magnifier unless we're shooting at pretty decent distances, and I always run it suppressed, so it is always going to be a very front heavy rifle because of the equipment that I run for daytime, nighttime, night vision, sound reduction. It's just going to be a heavy rifle, but this is how I have it set up. It's perfect for night vision. It's perfect for gas mask use. It's perfect for 150 yards on in, including indoors, nighttime, daytime, no light, low light, you name it. This rifle is super duper capable and will not let me down. I know it will go bang every single time I need it to in all sorts of nasty conditions. So this is my go-to rifle, Knights Armament SR15 11.5.